What if the evening news never had to report another overdose? What if more than 3 million preventable deaths just didn't happen every year? Imagine a world where hundreds of billions of dollars weren't lost to substance abuse, like sand in the gears of the global economy, but were instead used to fuel progress. This isn't some sci fi movie plot. This is what a world without drug and alcohol addiction could look like. But what would really happen if we could just snap our fingers and make it all disappear? The answer might change the way you see, well, everything. The first 24 hours would be pure chaos, but not in the way you think. The global alcohol industry, worth over $1.7 trillion, would just poof, vanish. Thousands of rehabilitation centers would become obsolete overnight. But those economic shocks would be a drop in the bucket compared to the boom that follows. Think of the US economy as a giant bucket for collecting resources. Right now, addiction has punched a huge hole in the bottom of it, draining over $740 billion a year. In our new world, that hole is instantly plugged. Productivity in the workplace would skyrocket. It would be like an entire workforce suddenly releasing the handbrake they've been driving with for years. At the same time, our justice system would feel like a colossal traffic jam on a highway that suddenly vanishes. Why? Because some research indicates that an estimated 65% of the US prison population has an active substance use disorder. Some studies suggest that the number of inmates with a history of substance abuse is as high as 80%. Courtrooms would go quiet. Crime rates would take a nosedive, since a huge driver for theft and violence is either feeding habit or being under the influence. Consider this: alcohol is a factor in up to 40% of all violent crimes. In this new reality, that's just gone. Give it a few weeks, and the ripple effects would start to transform everything. Our hospitals have been trying to stay afloat in a permanent flood of overdose and alcohol related emergencies. Suddenly, the floodwaters recede. With those immense resources freed up, it's as if a fire department battling one permanent raging inferno could suddenly redirect its efforts to every other emergency, making huge strides against conditions like cancer and heart disease. But the most profound change would happen inside of our homes. In the US, nearly 1 in 4 children lives in a household with a parent who has a substance use disorder. Addiction is often passed down through generations like a tragic family curse. By erasing it, we would shatter this devastating heirloom of pain for millions. Families torn apart by conflict could finally begin to heal, rebuild trust, and create the stable, loving homes they've always deserved. Culturally, things would get a complete rewire too. Think of our social lives as a river that has been long channeled through the central canyons of bars and drinking. Without it, the river would be forced to carve entirely new, diverse paths across the landscape, creating new forms of community and connection. The whole narrative of the tortured artist, fueled by addiction, would fade away, replaced by entirely new sources of creativity. We're seeing a whole new world being born, from our economy to our families. If you're finding this journey as an alternate reality, as something as fascinating as I am, take a second to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's next. A generation later, the world is almost unrecognizable. Life expectancy has climbed, cities have been revitalized, paid for by what you could call the addiction dividend. Mental health care no longer stretched thin like a single rubber band trying to hold a mountain of problems together. It's abundant and effective. Children grow up without ever knowing the fear of a parent's addiction, creating a society with a fundamentally stronger foundation of well being. But here's the twist: every utopia has a hidden cost, right? Could a world without this specific struggle become less empathetic? The raw, unfiltered art born from pain and recovery would cease to exist. It would be like removing an entire color from an artist's palette. Masterpieces could still be created, but a certain profound hue would be lost forever. Perhaps an appreciation for overcoming immense personal hardships would diminish. Without the valley of addiction to contrast the peak of sobriety, would our society lose a crucial dimension of the human experience? It's a thought that forces us to ask if we lost a piece of our grit and understanding of struggle. This journey into an alternate reality reveals a profound truth. Addiction isn't just a personal problem, it's a force that has shaped our modern world, from our economy to our justice system, right down to the very structure of our families. Imagining a world without it doesn't just show up as distant utopia. It holds up a mirror to our own reality, showing us exactly how much suffering is caused by these substances and what is truly at stake in our ongoing efforts to combat them. By seeing what we could be, we better understand the world we have, and the fight for a better future becomes that much clearer. What part of society do you think would change the most in a world without addiction? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining.